Thanks for joining today. Could you tell me how you usually adapt your lesson plans when teaching students with different learning styles?
Hello, and thank you for for giving me the opportunity of this interview. And yeah, well, how I usually adapt my lesson plans after I already create them as basic for a more general view of the students. I try to adapt it with the pass of the weeks to it improves for the students. Then I try to uh, observe which kind of approaches help more the students and try to improve the well the lesson plan for this kind of students specifically. When teaching well, and when they have a lot of styles, I try to include all of them in maybe not only focusing all the classes on one kind of learning style, but also, you know, instead of making a big activity that concentrates on only one style, I try to make several activities that maybe it can be a little repetitive, but I think that viewing different perspectives can help the students to understand it better. Uh, yeah, sure. Thanks you for giving me the opportunity for this interview. And yeah, okay. For a start, my lesson plans, I try to do them a little basic or general to try to, you know, uh, reach, help the most students to understand the class. And with the pass of the weeks, I try to adapt it, conforming I see which activities or kind of approaches help the students more to um, learn and understand the topics. But when there are different styles of learning, I try to do not focus all the activities on only one style. Like, for example, full readings or full reading or full listening. And I try to make small activities um, and try to implement different kind of styles to give the students different perspectives of the same topic that can be a little repetitive, but I hope this help them to understand better the topics that we are seeing.
That makes sense. When you notice a particular student struggling despite your varied activities, how do you identify the specific learning barriers they face?
When you notice a particular student, okay, well, the most obvious and easy way to identify these problems is to talk with them. When a student is having uh, bad assessments in bad grades in my class, maybe it's because not of him, so I try to focus the perspective of on me. I try to uh, you know uh, well, maybe it's not his fault having low grades. So maybe it's my classes, my way of explaining that it's not helping him. So I try to talk to him to see if it's a situation in his home or if he has specific difficulties trying when studying. So I try to talk to them. Use is the most obvious path that I can think.
I see. When you have that conversation with a student, how do you ensure they feel comfortable sharing their challenges openly with you?
Well, it's easily because I remember him that we are in a school. We are here to learn. We are here to ask a question, make mistakes, and practice or acknowledge that we learn at the school. And I try to remember that to them, to the students, because it's very common that the school is considered by the students as an evaluation site. Um, with the test and the grades that we give to the students is easy to forget that we are here to learn together. And maybe some students really have the questions, but they are shy to ask them during the class. So when I talk to them after class, for example, face to face, and they might be more comfortable to talk about their difficulties and their barriers about the learning process that they have.
That approach clearly fosters trust. How do you incorporate technology into your lessons to both engage students and support varied learning needs?
Well, one of my favorite kind of approaches, or well, uh, is teaching method is the gamification. I'm sorry. The gamification usually can be used with physical material, traditional material like the whiteboard or pieces of paper. But when you do a presentation using the gamification, usually caps more. You get more of the attention of the students because a presentation is more visual. They have a lot of decorations and attractives that motivate the students to try to focus more on what we are presenting. Um, Another way, well, I only try to use the technology for the presentation as a tool to help me explain better, maybe have more the attention of the students on the topics that we are seeing. But another way that I could use the technology in class could be asking the students to use certain platform like Canva or Kahoot to, you know, mm, getting a little bit out of this routine that we have at the school. Not only the notebooks, not only the whiteboards that can be a little repetitive and tired for the students to do every day. So using another way of using the technology as another way of submit the homeworks can maybe help the students to do a better work.
That's a thoughtful use of gamification and interactive platforms. How do you balance using technology with ensuring students develop strong fundamental language skills, especially if some are less comfortable with tech?
How do you balance? How do you balance using technology when ensuring students develop strong fundamental language skills? Okay. Well, we must remember that the technology is only a tool. It's not for the students to really learn a language from zero. Yeah, there are some applications, apps, and websites on the internet that can help them improve or even learn a new language by their own. But in the school, we use it as only a tool. So the technology, I usually more than nothing that to help me explain them and help them to understand the language and improve their language skills. Uh, if someone is less comfortable with the technology, well, that's why I don't like so much to. I prefer to use the technology only in the presentations that I do to help to my explanations being better. But if someone is less comfortable with the technology, well, it's not mandatory to use it. Nowadays, the technology can be a second way to submit a homework, but it's not mandatory to use it. At least in my case, there are some cases that the technology can be mandatory, but in my case, no, it's not mandatory. So I try to only use it to my presentations for my presentations.
That makes sense. When preparing your lesson presentations, how do you decide which visual or technological elements will best support the language points you're teaching?
How do you decide which visuals or technological elements? Well, here I usually try to make my presentations use attractive and easy to comprehend for the students. But it's true that as the lesson plan, I try to observe or see which kind of visual aids help more the students to understand the topics. So I try to improve my next presentations that I do. I don't recycle the presentations a lot. Yeah, I can use some for kind of a reference in the future, but it's always better to do a presentation from zero, so you can adapt it for the students that you are going to teach.
That sounds like a very student-centered approach. When you create these customized presentations, how do you measure or evaluate their effectiveness in improving student understanding?
Well, I try also to see if they are having problems understanding the topics that I'm teaching with these tools of technology. But if it isn't working, I try to use another methods like the book, or I try to only adapt it more to be more easy, even easier to comprehend. But for evaluation, I usually keep a regular PPP structure for the lesson plan. I present the information with the help of the technology, but in the practice and the produce stages, it's almost the same. I see how the students are, if the students are understanding the topics that we are talking about in the class. If I see that the most of the students don't understand or have low grades, it's obviously my fault. So I have to change something. Maybe not remove the technology, but try to teach in another way or use another kind of exercises. Normally, I use the task based approach for help the students that to be prepared uh, for a future for their future works. But I can change that if I see that is the problem, or I can change the kind of presentations that I use. Maybe removing a little bit the gamification, because even if it's a good way of having the attention of the students, sometimes it's not the best option. Sometimes, in my personal opinion, it's not the best option to teach uh, to teach a lesson. So yeah, I try to only change um, my way of teaching.
That shows a thoughtful and flexible approach. How do you typically provide constructive feedback to students who are struggling without discouraging their motivation to keep improving?
How do you typically provide? Well, the assessment is not telling what that is not only telling to the student that he is wrong or she is wrong, but also but I try to only tell them, okay, this is not like this. You must answer this way because of this. I'm explaining why the correct answer is other than he thinks is fundamental for the feedback. Not only saying no, you are wrong. No, that's bad. Because with that, the student only it's only going to memorize the correct answer, and we don't want that. What we as teachers want is to the students to understand the why of the things, the reason behind. So I try to see, also ask why they think that's the correct answer, and try to see where they are confused. That's a way of give a more specific explanation to the students to understand better where is their mistake in the activity in this case. So yeah, I just try to explain in a more specific way to the students the why of the things, the reason behind the things.
I see that focus on understanding over memorization is important. How do you handle a situation where a student repeatedly makes the same mistake despite your detailed explanations?
Well, maybe my explanations are kinda, if I repeat the same explanation to the student, is obviously going to have the same results. So I will try to give explanations from distinct perspectives. I talking about first, obviously, try to explain with my own words. Try to help him to understand with my perspective of how the situation will be handled. If that doesn't work, I try to help him to. I try to explain him with no, I don't know, visual aid, for example. I try to searching in Google nowadays is very easy, so seeking for examples of the topic or the concept that we're talking about and where the student is having confusion is kinda easy. In the internet has a lot of examples nowadays. So if that also doesn't work, maybe doing some practice with the student until he doing practice with the student one and time and another time and another time. Maybe he can see a patron